Welcome, I'm Rabbi Phil Bressler of Beit Am in Corvallis, Oregon, and this is the daily summary video for the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch Yomi Daily Halakha Learning Project, covering the passage from Siman 80, Seif 36 to Siman 80, Seif 45. You can find links to the Hebrew and English text of this passage and to the calendar of upcoming passages in this video's description. We're still talking about Melachot on Shabbat, and we're going to keep harping on avoiding things that might lead to wringing out water from clothes. I think there's an interesting kind of meta note to be made here on what the Kitzur really thinks are the most common stumbling blocks. And we start with what sounds like a scene from halachic Dungeons and Dragons. Your party is walking on Shabbat, and you come to a stream that's a bit wide. How do you try to get across? If you try to wade through it, that would be forbidden because you might be tempted to wring out your clothes after crossing the other side. You could try to find a way around it. That increases the effort of your journey, which isn't very Shabbat-like, so that's less ideal. Or you could jump over it. This is actually the best option, even though there's some risk that you'd fall in. But of course, you know, since you're a level 5 human Talmid, that it's actually forbidden to walk on Shabbat in any place where you might slip and fall into water because of our concern over the temptation to wring out your clothes. So how did you get to the stream in the first place? I know that your reason for wanting to cross the river must be to go and perform a mitzvah on the other side. In which case, it's permitted, provided you do it with a bit of a shinui, a bit of a twist. The Kitzur suggests keeping your hands inside your pockets, whereas you might normally put them out for balance. Keeping them stuffed in your pockets will help you remember not to wring out your clothes. Do be careful though, because depending on the nature of the mitzvah that you're going to do over there, it may or may not be permitted for you to cross back the other way. Say that though, despite your best efforts, you got some mud on your clothes. It's wet. It's okay to scrape that wet mud off. If it's dry though, don't scrape it. That's getting too close to number 8, grinding. 2 notes from the Mishnah Brura here I think are interesting. We're only talking about big clods of dirt in this case. If it's just like a little bit of dirt that is a kind of a cosmetic thing, removing it would be considered cleaning, and you're not allowed to do that. And even with dry mud, this isn't actually the malacha of grinding itself, so the prohibition is a rabbinic prohibition as opposed to Torah law, which means it's more okay for you to ask a non-Jew to do the act for you, if it would be really embarrassing to have a big old dirt clod on you while you walk around on Shabbat. Don't shake dust or snow off of your garments, but removing a feather is okay. I think that the deal here is that dust and snow really get into those fibers, and so getting them out of there is a lot more like separating the unwanted from the wanted, while a feather just rests on top. Be careful with wiping mud off of your shoes, and this I have to imagine is the most common possibility. Using certain objects to wipe off mud from your shoes can give the impression of performing various malachot, so do be careful. If your hands get muddy, use a rag or something you don't care about to wipe them off. You'd be too tempted to rinse out your good towel if that's what you used. Malacha number 15 is dyeing. That means coloring any material. So makeup that colors your face is prohibited. If you ate fruit and you have fruit juice on your hands, don't wipe off your clothes. Don't wipe your hands on your clothes. That would be dyeing your clothes. If you are bleeding, say from your nose or from a wound, don't use a kerchief. Use your hand or ideally a bandage. But obviously, if there's no alternative, use what you need to. And finally, this one was interesting. Don't cook with saffron. Saffron turns your food and your dishes yellow, and that is too much like dyeing. Number 19, weaving, covers passing weft through warp. So obviously don't weave at all, even if it's just 2 threads. And braiding hair would probably be the most common kind of weaving you might do. It's not actually weaving because you're not braiding the hair in order to create a bond, but it's still too close to permit. Finally, number 21, tying, binding 2 objects together via twisting, as with a knot. Seif number 45 is long and complicated, and we're going to continue talking about knot tying tomorrow, as a matter of fact. But the key to remember is that tying prohibits knots that either take skill to make or that are designed to be long-lasting. So a lot of the knots you learned in Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts, that's probably what that covers, but very simple which you might call granny knots, are more okay. Also, tying your shoes to go out is fine. You're obviously going to untie those knots when you get home. They're not designed to be long lasting. But do think about tying only a single knot as opposed to a double knot, which might be harder to undo. The Kitzur is pretty down on double knots. Mishnah Brewer and others permit them. Consult your reliable posek for more info on what to do there. That's all for today. As always, our learning is dedicated to Rabbi Shlomo Gansfried, the author of the Kitzur and the historic Jewish community of Uzhhorod, Ukraine. We'll see you tomorrow.